the dramatic developments in Washington, D.C., Paul Manafort, Donald Trump's former campaign chair, has agreed to plead guilty to 1 count of conspiracy against the U.S. and 1 count of conspiracy to obstruct justice.
And in return, prosecutors will drop the remaining charges against Manafort, including money laundering, tax fraud, and lying to the Department of Justice, among others. In addition to these charges, the special counsel's team has said it's investigating allegations Manafort colluded with Russia while working for Trump. Well, let's break down what all of this means for Manafort and possibly for the president. We're joined in New York by Vinoo Varghese, a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. And Vinoo, for the non-lawyers among us, even us fans of law and order, this seems quite a confusing plea deal. Manafort pleading to charges we didn't even know, new charges, others are being dropped. It seems he's cooperating. We don't know how. Just break it down for us. How did this deal, you think, come to be, and who gains in both sides here?
Well, the first thing, you know, when I heard Manafort was cooperating, it made me think of this John Cougar Mellencamp song, "The Walls Come Tumbling Down," and that's the first thing that I wonder if President Trump is hearing right now. Look, this was not a surprise, because Manafort, when he was convicted in Virginia, was facing nearly 60 years in prison. He would have been facing the same amount here in the new case in Washington, D.C. So after he was convicted, and I think he saw that as his best shot of walking away, and he didn't, it was going to be, there was a chance of cooperation. Now, in terms of what he pleaded to, conspiracy is a catch-all phrase. It's a catch-all crime, excuse me, and basically can encompass anything. So there's allegations that are put into the plea agreement. Whatever he agreed to, I mean, that was negotiated between him and his attorneys, basically to the benefit of the Mueller investigation, because he knows he's facing decades in prison, and he's not going to be getting that anymore.
Vinoo, let's look for a second at the charges that have been dropped, and Kalev mentioned some of them before: money laundering, tax fraud, lying to the DOJ. Now, Manafort, according to the court filing, admitted to these things, but these charges are now being dropped as part of that deal. What does that mean? Will he not have to take any responsibility for admitting to these crimes?
Correct. So he's what it does is that they've gotten the most important things from their perspective, what they're looking for, which is the conspiracy against the United States, and they are getting that, and that's what the Mueller team wants. So yes, he's not going to have to deal with that. A judge can look at that potentially to enhance the sentence, but now that he's cooperating, what it allows the judge to do basically is give him no time. He may end up getting time served. He's been in jail for several months, and he's going to get time served. It looks like he's going to stay in pending any cooperation. So that's kind of typical when there's a plea agreement, particularly one involving cooperation. The prosecutors and the defense attorneys come together and they fashion out something that ultimately is really going to benefit the government, because it's Manafort whose neck is on the line here.
Vinoo, for anyone other than Paul Manafort, the real interest here is the fact that the prosecutor said he will be cooperating with the Justice Department. Now, what does that mean exactly? Does he have to basically tell them everything, especially what, for example, what went on in that meeting with the Russians that he was at with Donald Trump Jr., or is there some kind of limited cooperation he may have agreed to?
No, when you cooperate with the United States government in a cooperation agreement, you are basically opening up your entire life. So you have to tell the government everything you've ever done wrong in your life. And the reason that they do this is they want to basically try to bulletproof a witness who ends up cooperating, becomes a snitch, or whatever you want to call it, tattletale, whatever term President Trump used. And so it opens up everything, and basically he pleads to whatever they wanted to plead to, and they will immunize him for other acts. So the answer to your question is no, he has to admit everything that pertains to his life and of use to the government. So there will be things that he will tell them the government may not have known about. I imagine there's a lot of things that the government didn't know about Paul Manafort.
Vinoo, there's a lot of speculation today about whether why didn't he hold out for a pardon from President Trump? Or maybe he could still do it. Or maybe he pled guilty now, so in order not to have anything come out before the midterms. What about that? Is the pardon basically off the table here, or was that dropped? What do you think happened there?
I think a calculation whether, look, President Trump is going to do whatever President Trump wants to do. The problem with the pardon for President Trump is that at that point, Paul Manafort, if President Trump were to pardon Paul Manafort, that would not prevent Paul Manafort from testifying against President Trump. Because at that point, he doesn't have the privilege against self-incrimination. So there's no protection anymore for Paul Manafort. So he would be compelled to testify or face jail for not testifying. So really, a pardon creates a very tricky situation for President Trump. And furthermore, it could potentially add another strike against President Trump in the obstruction inquiry against him.
And speaking of the president, Vinoo, to what extent does this plea deal now turn up the heat on President Trump and the ongoing Mueller investigation?
I think it turns it up. As I said, I think that, I wonder if President Trump is listening to John Cougar Mellencamp and hearing that song, the walls are coming tumbling down, because this is, Paul Manafort is major, as is Michael Cohen. The two closest people to President Trump, his campaign manager, his personal lawyer, are both cooperating. Or Michael Cohen at least potentially will cooperate. This is major, major heat, because again, there's no right move for President Trump. If he pardons him, it opens up gives more heat on him in terms of potential obstruction, but also it doesn't protect him from having Manafort testify against him.
All right, well, it's going to be interesting. Right now, of course, the White House is preoccupied with Hurricane Florence, but when that dies down and President Trump perhaps starts tweeting, let's remember how he talked about Paul Manafort as a good man and praised him prior to this plea deal. It's going to be very interesting to see what the president has to say now about Paul Manafort.